Hello, and welcome to issue 632 of Geek in the City Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Duran.
I'm one of your other hosts, Rita.
And I'm your other host, Cable Hashtani.
Hi, I'm really confused now. What was I being like stupid again?
No, it's like essentially I'm still digging around while you're like hitting all of the buttons and going live. And what I don't realize until it's over is everything was on. Like I've got like my armpit in the camera, and as soon as I'm done digging around with my equipment, now you're ready to do. Now, like you were waiting on me.
Was I not supposed to go? I thought we were good to go.
No, you're fine. It's just like I'm being really frustrated with my setup right now, and so I kept making adjustments after you're like, I'm gonna start. Here we go. You know, you did everything right. I
don't hear that very often anymore.
I was just hyper fixated and thus I'm pretty sure like I said, I had my armpit in the camera and you're waiting on me to officially start the show.
Oh.
I don't think he was actually waiting. He was just going. That's what made it funnier.
Oh, that is funnier.
Wait, should I have not gone?
No, it's fine. I just told you. You did everything right. You told us it was time to start. You started the process of starting the show. I made it weird.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. All right. I'm having one of those days apparently where I just assume I have done everything wrong in my life and everyone hates me. That's the brain space I'm in right now.
Oh. Your brain is lying to you, Aaron.
No, Denise is like, your
brain is lying to you.
Petting.
Denise, your brain is lying to you. You're both having a day where your brain is lying to you. Everything is fine.
Maybe.
Everything is fine.
I mean, the equipment is being a pain in my ass today. Can we at least agree on that?
Sure, I'm sure it is. But the equipment is actually fine. It's upsetting you. Everything is fine. No one out there listening or watching right now, they're like, everything's fine. What's wrong with these people? And then they take a pause and go, oh, no, wait a minute. Listening to the show for years, I know exactly what's wrong.
I know exactly what's wrong with those jackasses.
It's like I have written a doctoral thesis on what's wrong with people. I have defended a doctoral thesis on what's wrong with
man, I kind of want to read that.
I don't.
Also, Cable, you kind of sounded like Bruce Campbell a little bit in Evil Dead 2. So I kept waiting for you to go, we've just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine?
I'm fine. I am trying my best to do my soothing voice that also does not sound sarcastic, which is difficult because all of my voices sound sarcastic.
But also the soothing voice, the colloquial soothing voice sounds patronizing.
I also try not to sound patronizing, even though I sound patronizing most of the time. It's either sarcasm. You either get sarcasm or you're being patronized, which is different than being patronized.
Very different. You want one, not the other.
Yeah. Thanks, English. Same, spelled the same, pronounced differently.
The worst language.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing I decided to make a career fucking using it. Gross.
Again, that's your brain. Your brain is lying to you, Aaron.
Wait. What?
Your brain is being negative. It's pulling the negative aspects.
That is totally happening right now.
Welcome to this week's session.
I know. Slowly but surely, this TV show, this podcast is turning into like Cable just talking us off the ledge.
Turning into?
I mean, that's fine.
We've been
Let's-
doing that for years.
Let's
And
scrap
it's
what
not
we
just
have. We'll just scrap what we have planned today and let Cable just talk us off the ledge. That's fine.
we
Let me tell you what else I'm agitated about right now, Cable.
go right ahead.
No.
I mean, it's not just me talking you off the ledge. You've talked me off the ledge. You've talked me off the ledge. We've talked each other off ledges. That's what we do.
Why are so many
Hopefully-
ledges? I think the real problem here is the ledges. The number of ledges in this situation.
Too many ledges in life. We need to stick to just rolling hills.
That's because capitalism demands ledges.
Mm. Mm.
And they are good to brood on. That is also pretty cool.
That's true. But you want to do that on buildings with gargoyles, so you got something to lean on.
Yeah, like you never hear of like Batman brooding on the grassy knoll.
Well,
And
I
you
mean,
can't.
he does, but Bruce Wayne broods on grassy knolls in stately Wayne Manor because there are no grassy knolls in Gotham City proper.
Except the Wayne graveyard, where that's where Bruce does his brooding.
Yeah, isn't that like on his property? Isn't his
Yeah.
parent?
His Bruce brooding.
Yes,
Yeah,
brooding Wayne.
that's his old timey white money thing. They like to bury their own in their backyard.
Yep. Broody Wayne. That's his new name.
Broody
Wayne.
Wayne.
That's his long lost cousin. See, we were talking about Kevin Smith before the show, so my brain went to Brody. Now I'm imagining Jason Lee as like a stoner version of Bruce Wayne.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, Jason Lee! If only we hadn't lost him to Scientology.
So is he fully gone?
I don't know. I consider all of those fuckheads that join Scientology at some level gone, unless you're Leah Ramey and you make a movie about how crazy the batshit
Right.
insane it was, and you get out and she's still alive, right? They haven't killed her.
Yes, she's still alive.
But that, I'm sure that's in the works for them. They're gonna try.
I mean, I feel like if they did, it would be really bad for the Mission Impossible box office.
Anyway,
I got nothing to add to this.
It's all right.
well, intrepid listeners, we're going to dive into this February with a couple new things.
Yeah, brand new content.
You can teach
Context?
old podcasters new tricks, new segments.
But
Yeah,
I do
that's-
demand treats in return.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm.
You just have to catch them with your mouth, Denise. Just,
I'm not going to try to catch things with my mouth on camera.
mhm.
I do have limits, and apparently I only go up to armpit.
So we're doing new things.
So the first is Denise has been wanting to do this, and we are finally making it a reality. And that is a Geek in the City deep dive into Avatar: The Last Airbender, since we're the last people on the planet who've watched the series.
Right.
I've still only seen the same 4 episodes.
Me too.
Wait, did you watch 4? Because I thought we were doing the first 3 is the arc.
No, it's the first 4 episodes.
Well, shit. Also, I ran out of time, so
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's fine,
There will
it's
be
fine.
then there will be spoilers.
Yeah.
it's fine.
Ironically, episode 4 is the one that grabs me the most so far, so I have more thoughts on that one.
Oh, good.
Well, I've watched episodes 1 through 3 multiple times, so
You're the
Some
expert.
of us can focus there, and then you can, take us the rest of the way home.
That sounds great. And then the other thing we're going to do is we've been bandying this about for a while, and we're going to tackle doing some reviews of romantic comedies.
We're doing that for February, right?
Yes, for the month of February.
It's just the nerve merge.
Mm-hmm. In a segment that I believe we settled on the Ramentary.
I believe so. Yes.
Ramentary.
The
Ramentaries.
But spell it funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise people are going to think we're talking about like ramen.
No, that would be the ramentary. This is the rom and terry.
Right. Yes. And also not to be confused with the oral history of Romulus, which would also be the Rom. No, that would be a Romutary. Wait,
Romutary, yes.
Romutary.
Right, and this is raw.
That might be a romumentary.
Yeah. Subtitled Of Shoulder Pads and Cloaks.
Which folks may look at what we do and go, why are they talking about romance movies? And here's the reason. This is the reason that makes sense in my head anyway.
Not romance movies generally speaking, but specifically rom-coms.
There, like, we are a pop culture podcast, and to ignore the fact that romantic comedies have a strong foothold and affect popular culture would be pretty arrogant to think that. It's like, no, it's just all nerd stuff. I'm like, nah, it's not. Pop culture is popular culture.
And I know nerds who love rom-coms. Love, Disney or not Disney, Hallmark Christmas rom-coms specifically. Everyone's got their niche,
There's a dude on TikTok that does nothing but make videos of himself playing a writer and an exec that pitches nothing but god-awful Hallmark rom-coms.
Pitches.
Yeah, he comes up with these pitch ideas, and it's like, oh god, they're awful, and yet so funny. It's like, I would actually watch those.
True story. The past couple of weeks, I cannot get a small part of my brain to stop outlining a fucking like Hallmark rom-com Christmas movie script. Like, there's a weird part of my brain that something grabbed it, and I was like, I could bang out a Hallmark Christmas movie. Like, it'd be weird, but like, say like a ghost of Christmas Past tries to get a young couple together because they're old feuding families, and only the ghost knows. I don't know. See?
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, there would be a ghost in it.
Well, yeah, there's got to be a ghost in it.
It's you. Of course, there would be a ghost in it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
played by John Leguizamo.
Son of a bitch, I'm in. Oh, you might have something, Aaron.
I know.
You might have to pitch it. You might have to write it.
Sure. Why not? Anyway, that's because we're doing rom-coms in February.
Yeah. Rom-com February.
Speaking of romance, because I just got this in the mail and I wanted to open it, is my new I'm in a tool of the month club for pottery, and these tools are meant to. Oh my god! Why can't I camera? They line up.
Oh, I see. That's
and
very
there's two
clever.
different tool shapes, but they kiss.
They're making out.
Kissing tools.
Yeah.
Go, cat.
Oh, that's the same place you got your bat, right?
Yes. Yeah. Every month they send you something different, and they're limited edition, and whenever possible they're seasonal.
Sorry, every time you guys do that, it freaks me out because it's like Cable just passed his cat to you.
I mean,
just to clarify, they are two different cats.
They're similar. They're both, medium length, splotchy colored cats.
Mm-hmm.
But they have very different little faces.
Our numbers are going to skyrocket as soon as people realize there's cats on this show.
They are both Torbies.
Torbies, that's what that's called.
Mm-hmm. Tortoise shell and tabby. Because they have the stripes of a tabby cat, but they have the coloration of a tortoise shell.
That makes sense. I'm surprised I didn't know that.
I didn't either until the first time when I took to Manju to the vet that she has now and has had for a decade. They're like, oh, she's a Torby. And I'm like, what the fuck is a Torby? And they explained it. And I'm like, Well, now I feel dumb because that makes the portmanteau is right there.
You do love a good
I-
portmanteau too.
I do. And a
So,
good
so
port.
do I.
Sorry, I was gonna get to you too.
No, I'm not. I didn't say that in exasperation at you. I'm saying like, yeah, me too. And I also did not figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now it's
She
time
knows
for-
what-
it's time for the show. Sorry, I just
Yeah.
realized I wanted a candle burning while we record, and I had to reach over to get it.
Totally fine.
Okay.
It's the reaching episode. I'll just
Yeah.
do it.
Apparently,
Oh goddamn it! But I forgot to trim. Carry on. Ignore.
I don't understand what's going on with the chat today. I can't see the chat at all.
Sorry,
They're fairly quiet. They've either found something else to do while we're broadcasting, or they're just like, they're just going, let's go see where this shit show goes today. They're just all over the map.
Well, and I can always tell when I forget to promote it a couple hours ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, I love our audience. They don't have the best
Do
attention
you mean
spans
the
at remembering.
audience doesn't also keep this on their calendar like we do?
No. No, that's fine.
I'm sure some people do.
Yeah, things
I'm
will
sure-
show up.
Yes or not?
I'm sure they have a shared Google Calendar.
That's right. So the movie we're doing this week is The Lovebirds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She's giggling because I just made a reference to the movie.
Yes.
Oh, kids. That's the other reason that they're not very chatty is because
Children!
they're dealing
That's
with
the
their
problem.
children.
That's also an interesting thing to have come up right now.
Just,
but we'll get to that.
Give them a pack of matches and go play. Mommy's listening to her stories.
Honestly, it's fine. Matches are not even that flammable or effective at putting other things on fire.
Neither are children unless,
Firestarter, really
usually.
set up a false flag. Anyway, back to tonight's movie.
Tonight's movie. So this is a movie on Netflix for those who are interested. It is called The Lovebirds. When did it come out? Was it 2020?
2020.
I didn't know
It was meant to be theatrical.
Yes, that's right. I did know that.
Yeah, and COVID hit, and they didn't even attempt to do a theatrical, so they went to look for a buyer, and Netflix bought it. So
Because
yeah.
why wouldn't they?
Right.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's a Netflix only. I don't think it ever got a theatrical release. So
Mhm.
yeah.
The stars of the movie are Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I got that one. Every time I say his name out loud, I screw it up. I feel really dumb every time I do. It's like it's pronounced just like it's spelled.
Yeah. And this was kind of the year that he was doing. He was just recently kind of off Lovesick that he wrote.
No, Lovesick is older than that, isn't it?
I think that's 2018 or 2019. So
What's
I mean,
Lovesick?
Lovesick's basically it's based on him and his wife's life. She has medical issues.
Oh.
No, she's fine.
That's the Big Sick.
Oh, the Big Sick, not Lovesick. I'm sorry. The Big Sick is what he did.
Which is 2017. So he's had a break.
All right.
Yeah,
because it's the same director on this one.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. I feel like there's one other movie that's totally in our wheelhouse that this guy also did.
Well, he did
The Eternals.
Not Kumail, the director.
Oh, the director. The director is Michael Showalter.
Showalter.
Oh, I know that name.
Right. Wet Hot American Summer,
Yep.
which is, I don't know, maybe that's not in all of our wheelhouses, but it's
No,
a
but he
popular
also
one at my house.
he used to also write for the State.
That's where I probably know him from.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried White Hot American Summer so many times. Everyone tells me that I would love it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, you do. You get
apparently
it.
he also
It's just
does
very
Search Party, which has been on my radar for like ages. I think he just went into its 5th season, so obviously I'm dragging my feet. Oh, and they came together, which is it is almost like a satire. It is almost a satire of rom-com.
Oh,
But
okay. That's
we
cool.
can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Again, tonight we're talking
Right.
about the Lovebirds. Do we want to give a quick premise?
I mean, yeah, we could. I mean, it's pretty basic. I mean, this movie kind of follows a lot of the path of a lot of rom-coms that came before it.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the dark, like, I don't want to say dark as in like mean, but it's kind of like the twisted rom-com. And that when we first meet the characters, we meet them when they're falling in love, that initial period where everything is sunshine and rainbows. And then it cuts to, I think, is it 2 years later?
4 years.
4 years later, where they're basically deciding that their marriage is done. Like in the car, they're like, we're done. Like this is not working.
Relationship. They're not married. That is a sticking point.
Yes.
I forgot. That's right.
Mhm.
And then they get, yeah, they get wrapped up in what they think is a cop trying to stop a criminal, but it's clearly not a cop trying to stop a criminal as he runs a person over and over and over.
And then they
hijinks ensue.
Yes.
Mhm.
They are like simultaneously running from the cops and these criminals, and they essentially think that they can fix it all on their own and thus get out of this like sticky situation. And some people might already know this. It just depends on like, what movies you watch. It helps that I watched this semi recently. And then realized, oh, I have already seen this, is another movie with Tina Fey and Stephen Carell called Date Night, which is a married couple with kids. They're basically just always tired, like too tired to have date night, where they go to the same place every week, eat the same thing, and basically just talk about their kids. And the reason I thought it was like really interesting, the similarities to this movie are they're almost the same story in terms of like couple with a problem, they accidentally get involved into some like criminal underworld shit, and they decide that they can handle it on their own. But
it's also a similar plot to the movie called Game Night, which stars Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman. Same thing.
I think I've seen that too.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's a pretty similar formula. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. That's probably why it's a similar formula.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Cable was saying, it is a new style of rom-com, sort of. In that like it's not the drawn out will they won't they. It's they did and now what. Until the criminal underworld brings them back together again, I guess.
Which is usually what it's designed to do.
Right. Spice up your life. But what's interesting is, so like Date Night being like the most like almost, not maybe not scene for scene, but like act by act is kind of the same. But that's two middle-aged white folks with a very like mundane suburban life. And this is essentially two single millennials who are not married, but have still sort of, achieved, that's not the right word. They've reached this sort of downward slope in their relationship where they're like, oh, are we in trouble? What do we do?
Right.
But again, it's like millennials, they're younger, they're both people of color. And that of course being like one of the key reasons that we wanted to use this movie is because it's not just two white people as per usual.
I started going through a list of the 200 best romantic comedies compiled by Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm like, white people, white people, white people, white people, white people, white people. Like, okay. And like, this was, I think, one of the first ones where I'm like, oh, look at that.
Right.
Is this was this list like all time or modern or?
Yes, it was all time because there are a bunch of rom-coms from like the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
40s as well, I think. I think there's a Marilyn Monroe picture on there.
Romantic comedies from the early days of cinema are real problematic, y'all.
Well, that could be said for almost every movie from the early cinematic era.
Mhm.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing to jump. We could do days and days on, I feel like.
But I think it is important that the two leads are not white people, because that's part of their reasoning of why they should solve this on their own as opposed to going to the police, because they're like, we're not going to the police. The police are just going to shoot us.
Right. Well, I think Kumai's character, Kumali, he suggests it first.
Mm-hmm.
And Ilsa Ray has that great moment where she like does this. She's like, this is me covering my body camera so I can beat the shit out of you. You know. So yeah, that gets addressed really quickly, which brings me actually to what I think is the strongest part of this, of the entire movie, are the two leads.
Oh yeah.
Their comedic timing and their chemistry of bouncing off each other is so good that I don't personally think this movie would have worked as well if they weren't the leads.
No. Yeah, I agree.
They
Sorry,
do
Denise,
have
go
great
ahead.
No, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, yes, they have really good chemistry. Both of them have really good comedic timing, but they're not the same style of comics.
Mm-hmm.
But they play well off of one another. So, so when people are if you Google, you know, the Lovebirds versus Date Night, one of the comparisons is the Lovebirds. You know, like Date Night, but funny.
Right.
Which is a little mean, I suppose. Date Night isn't unfunny. It's just a little trite, I think.
Yeah.
Which is part of, we talk about like fantasy, sci-fi, and superhero movies, and we talk about the fact that especially the superhero movies, there's a formula that you follow. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with romantic comedies, which means at best sometimes they're going to be trite.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all about finding. I think that's what saves most romantic comedies is, do you want to watch the two people on screen together banter and fight and make out and fall in love and go crazy? Do you want to watch the two of them do that because that's what you're in for? Because the rest of the story, you're going to go, yeah, I know how this plays out. I think the most surprising thing to me in all of the Lovebirds was the fact that the cops were not bumbling idiots and at no point considered these two people criminals. They considered them to be witnesses to the crime because they had footage of the other person killing the biker.
Right.
And taking their car. It's like, oh, okay. So the cops actually did their job, and that's why they're not looking at these people as criminals. They wanted to help them.
Yeah.
That was refreshing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Because when they do actually finally like interact with the cops, they're like, it's just so like matter of fact that I didn't really read into it that way.
And I think that it's also important that the lead detective on that particular case was also a black woman. So it's like, do not walk across the keyboard, cat.
Too late.
Yep. Oops.
Oops.
I'm still here.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, there's, like, for me, story wise, there's not a whole lot to delve into because it is pretty basic. It just goes from one crazy set piece to another. which
Mhm.
I'm totally fine with. It's basically The Amazing Race, but people get murdered. Which,
Which is
okay,
the whole point.
yeah, that's a good pitch. I'd watch that movie. I did watch that movie.
You did. That's
I
exactly
did.
what this movie was. It was The Amazing Race. Only
You know,
people get killed.
the villain is kind of great. You know, the whole line of like, it makes, you know, it's nothing personal. You both seem like actually a really nice couple, and I will feel bad for killing you. Makes feel better. I will also get over that quickly.
That's
Mhm.
that guy's a really good actor. I know him like initially and like most clearly in my mind from Boardwalk Empire. He
Mm.
Oh,
plays
right.
he plays Steve Buscemi's brother, and he's a really good like character actor. He's done a bunch of other stuff that I'm not going to think of right now because my brain is bad. But every time he's in something, he's really distinct looking, and yet every time it takes me a while to be like, oh, it's the guy, because he really sort of like blends in as his character.
Right.
So he was a really good choice too, and he's also funnier than you expect, you know, given what like your initial knowing of him being Boardwalk Empire.
Right.
Not exactly a humorous show.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes those actors will like they want to do something different so bad, so when they do like a comedy, like it really stands out because they're good at it. On the
Mhm.
flip side, it was like the first time Robin Williams played someone who was evil. Like the first time, I think it was 1 Hour Photo, and he's
Mhm.
terrifying in that movie.
Mm.
Yeah, because 1 Hour Photo came out before Insomnia,
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
where he was also the villain.
Yeah. The Lovebirds does do something that I am such a fan of, but I know it is not like everyone's jam. I love it when characters have an almost pointless conversation about a topic in the beginning, and then it becomes like the peak
The
scene.
running gag.
Mhm.
I love you have to plan an orgy. Orgies don't just happen. And then it turns into, and they're like, that's how you get Eyes Wide Shut. And then they just drop it until like 80 minutes later, where they're literally in an Eyes Wide Shut moment.
Mhm. They have a shared Google Calendar.
Yeah. So yeah, it's stuff like that I mean, that's what kind of helps keep this one going for me. I mean, I definitely recommend it if you want something a little different, like if you want that rom-com chill evening,
Mhm.
but you also like a
Without-
little bit of like really intense, almost cartoonish violence.
No, for sure. That this is definitely like the type of rom-com that I am not embarrassed to admit that I enjoy.
Right.
And that's a short list. So.
Yes. Yeah.
So to peel back the curtain a bit, what do you look for in romantic comedies?
Well, I don't is the thing. Like I do not seek out romantic comedies. When I was young, I used to really enjoy While You Were Sleeping.
Mm.
But like
That's one I've never seen.
I couldn't even say what it is that I enjoyed about it so much, but like retrospectively, it's kind of weird and also sad, and then I don't know. I feel bad for the main character, and then like I don't want to give anything away for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's like 35 years old. But
That movie's been out 30 years. You're fine. Sandy did that when she was in her 20s.
When I see that movie now, I'm like, really low bar, honey, really low bar, and that guy was all wrong for you. You really only liked you were in love with the idea of him, and you were in love with a guy you didn't even really know, and that's how you got into all this shenanery, and then in the end you ended up with his brother. I'm like, I could not really explain what it is that I liked about it, but once I got older, I just like, I don't know, maybe I identified that there are a lot of tropes and there is a formula that's been in play for a really long time. Even stuff that is, in my opinion, a little bit more charming, like You've Got Mail. I thought that was like a very charming romantic comedy, and casting goes a long way there.
That was the formula for the longest time.
Yeah.
Was you put Meg Ryan in with a strong male lead, and you have a movie.
Mhm.
Whether that was Billy Crystal, whether that was Tom Hanks, whether that was Kevin Kline, that was
Oh,
your
yeah.
formula. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that
And
was from Paris with Love or something like that.
Yeah.
And it gets old fast. So I think that like, I guess by the time I was old enough to like start making my own critical choices on film preferences, I was like, this is not a genre for me. There's nothing there, like there's like no molds are being broken here. And
Mhm.
and usually the male lead is not all of the things you hated about him before are still there. He's still that dude. You've just changed your mind about how you feel about him. They're always kind of a shithead.
I think that's one of the reasons why to take a closer look at this, because this, for Americans, this is how we not gauge. This is what starts helping us define what we look for in romance in our personal lives. And I think people who've been in relationships and marriages and whatever for longer periods of time look at romantic comedies and go, this is all bullshit. Oh, why do I think that? Because I've lived and been in a relationship long enough that this is what they keep selling us, but it's not true.
And that's never how it works in real life.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when you see things like with Camille and Issa, their characters in the Lovebirds having this argument that's like, oh yeah, this is an argument that people who've lived together for 4 years have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they argue about the dumbest shit,
right,
to avoid arguing about the thing that they're actually upset about.
Right. And I think that the story is served really, really well by the fact that they do in fact open with the beginning of that relationship, because the formation of their coming together was also very like realistic.
Mm-hmm.
They met at a party, had a one-nighter. Turns out they actually have a really good vibe together, so they decide to keep going from there.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, that's like a realistic and modern way that people get together romantically. And that's not something that used to be like ever portrayed in a romantic comedy. Usually like the big kiss is the climactic moment in the arc, and then like the next scene is the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Another movie that I really enjoy that is technically a rom-com is a who's the big guy who always plays dumb, and he was on How I Met Your Mother. Seagal.
Oh yeah.
Jason
right?
Segel.
Jason Segel. Thank you.
Yep.
The 5-year engagement. That's another one of those movies where they're already together when the movie starts. I think they talk about how they get together, but in real time, they are already a couple. And then they get engaged, and then life keeps happening to them. And next thing you know, this is not technically a spoiler because again, it's sort of formulaic to a degree. They maybe aren't going to get married. Like they're like too many obstacles are being thrown in the way and preventing them from getting married, and it like donks up the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie has a real downturn, which again I do always enjoy. I like devastate me, please. I know that like other people might not enjoy watching that movie because it makes them feel bad.
I think that gets into, there's a lot of, this is why people watch movies and television shows, is to feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's controlled. It's a way to control when they get to feel something.
That's I don't know. That's probably what it is for me. But like I know that some people are like, I don't like to see movies with with a hard breakup, or like there's infidelity, because it makes them upset. It makes them, I don't know, maybe it's a little too close to home, or just something that they have a lot of anxiety about.
Mm-hmm.
But even if I relate to certain negative elements of a depressing film, I'm still here for it.
Right. Cool. I don't know.
I know, I just kind of left that hanging.
Yeah,
that's all right. One last thing I do want to say about the movie is I appreciate that Issa Rae and Camille Nanjiani are both executive producers on the movie.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't think I caught that.
yeah. And that usually means they get some character input and whatnot too, which probably helped a lot.
I was looking up her Issa Rae's IMDb because I'm like, I've never seen her in anything. I'm looking at it, it's like, oh, that's because she's not been in a lot. She writes and produces a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
she is first and foremost a writer.
Yeah. She's got great comic timing, so it's like, oh, okay, that's why it was good. She may have started writing this, like, if she had a hand in writing the movie. I don't know if she did. I should have double checked, but I could see where she would have gone, I think I actually want to play this character.
Right. I don't know if she did or not. It might be also one of those things where maybe she did some, but because of like certain writer and actor guilds, she has to stay off the official credits kind of stuff. That happens every once in a while.
Maybe.
That is true.
Yeah.
She started out. So I read her book not too long ago, Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl. And like as a kid, she wanted to be a writer, and she, I guess, like got her break doing a YouTube series called Awkward Black Girl. I discovered her through her HBO show Insecure,
which is a great show.
Yeah, even though I'm like well outside of that age range now, I found it to be like very like relatable and believable. And I'll watch anything that she's in, even if I think it's something terrible. Even if I think it might be terrible, but that's yet to happen. So,
Steve asked, "How do we feel about Judd Apatow approaches to the genre?"
Yeah, so I just pulled up his credits here. He's usually the producer on stuff, right?
Well, I think he directs and writes too. He does a lot.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, we can.
He's a writer, director, producer. He's kind of does everything. So
yeah, he has the most credits as a producer, if I'm looking at this correctly.
Yeah,
but Untitled. Oh, he did The King of Staten Island. That was a fun one. Not a rom-com necessarily, but I think probably his like most well-known rom-com is probably The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
That or Knocked Up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he did do that, didn't he? When 40-Year-Old Virgin came out, I thought it was pretty fucking hilarious. I haven't seen it in a really long time, and part of me does want to revisit that story, but part of me also thinks it's probably pretty cringy in a couple places.
I actually have never seen it. It's just,
I feel like if you've never seen it, you definitely should.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones I never got around to it, and I don't know why. Something about it just doesn't appeal to me.
I don't know that I've seen it, and I remember seeing it back in the day, and I also I don't know that I agree with your statement, Denise. I don't know that you do need. I don't know that you do need to see it, Aaron.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I remember enjoying it too, but I also can think back and I'm like, all of the things that are memorable to me are things that I would go, nope, this is not funny.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that I look back on now and I'm like, those were not funny things. And I also know where I was headspace wise around that time, so also not great.
Yeah.
But like not funny or like problematic, because that's the thing that I'm like in the back of my brain. I'm like, if I watch it again, am I gonna find a bunch of red flags?
It shits all over modern nerd culture.
Ah,
That is one of the biggest things. Like he's made fun of for collecting toys.
Which
oh yeah, because yeah,
you could argue as Judd Apatow also kind of poking fun at himself, but
I could, but I don't know Judd Apatow, so I'm not going to.
all right.
Does he
Like,
collect toys?
I don't
No,
know.
he is a colossal nerd though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and I understand that is part of the appeal, is you are supposed to take all these quirks, and that's what makes this character funny, but that's also down the same road of the Big Bang Theory.
Right.
Another one that is on his list is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That one I also find pretty funny, even though there are parts of it that I hate. If that makes sense. So clearly, those are my feelings on Judd Apatow movies. As I have at least found them funny once at some point, but there are problems.
And I'm also realized that I don't watch a lot of Judd Apatow stuff.
Weirdly, yeah. I think I have, if I keep kind of looking through this list, but because it's got like comedic actors that I enjoy in other stuff. It's never like, ooh, the new Judd Apatow is out, let me get on that. It's oh, Jason Segel, he's in that show I liked. Steve Carell, The Office. Woo, let's check that out.
Yeah.
I hate The Office. I hate it so much. I recognize how smart it is and how well produced it is, and every single actor on there, it's like they're fantastic at their craft. I worked in an office, and the first time I had friends go, watch this, I watched 4 episodes and said, I don't need to watch where I work. Fuck this. You're like, no, it's funny. I'm like, this isn't funny. I work with these people and I want to kill them. Yeah, I watched very few episodes and never went back. Like, I can watch clips and they're hilarious because then I have no context, and it's like, this is great. Like Rainn Wilson is a fucking genius. Like, I respect all of the components. I just cannot watch it as a whole show. It's like,
right. Yeah, I'm looking at his stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay. I think the only thing when he was an EP on it was Freaks and Geeks, which was just a wonderful show.
That explains the connection with James Franco and Jason Segel.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's
was
where
Jason
they started.
Segel in that too?
Jason Segel, yeah.
Yeah.
And Seth Rogen, right?
Yep, and Linda Cardinelli. Like, that was like, if the 2000s was ever going to have their version of the Brat Pack, they were all in Freaks and Geeks. That was them. Yeah,
I've never seen Freaks and Geeks, and they all came from that.
Yeah, it was a really
I never
good
saw
show.
it either. Judd Apatow ostensibly also gave us a Paul Rudd, so
kinda. Paul Rudd's been around since forever, though.
Yeah, I think Paul Rudd has given us Paul Rudd. Clueless gave us Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I was gonna say Clueless was where I really first remember him.
Who is he in Clueless? Oh my god.
He's the hunky older boy that Cher falls in love with.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I haven't watched Clueless in a dog's age. I have to see this.
I don't think Clueless.
Oh, the stepbrother.
Either. Oh yeah.
No, you don't think so?
I don't know. Maybe it does, since it is based off of based on an Austen novel.
I don't remember that one, but
I think it's based on.
Pride and Prejudice?
I don't know. Maybe it is based on a. It is based on an Austen novel. I do know that.
Yeah.
If you start typing in Jane Austen, because I was gonna get her oeuvre before you even finish typing Jane Austen, you get Jane Austen Clueless. So
that's awesome.
Just like 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they didn't try to hide that one.
No, not at all. And then there was the dancing movie. Wasn't it about dancing? No, I just had the girl who did the dancing movie. But the O for Othello, it was about dancing.
There were a lot of movies in the 90s that focused on remaking classics, like either classic novels or classic theater as modern takes. Hence Clueless and 10 Things I Hate About You. And there's a whole list. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Right.
And all of them also would fall into the rom-com category. Like Clueless is at its heart a rom-com.
Yes.
Same with 10 Things I Hate About You.
Definitely.
Still also one of my favorites.
Teen rom-coms, which I think are technically their own category.
That's true.
That's true.
Category is teen rom-coms. Sorry, I gained access to a new season of RuPaul's Drag Race, and just got all of those audio blurbs in my brain.
Well, should we slide on over maybe to Avatar?
I think so. I think that makes for a good installment of our first Ramentary.
Nice.
Are we still collecting titles from people for this, or do we have a list padded out yet?
If people want to throw ideas at us, feel free. We may or may not take your your suggestions.
Probably not any of the ones we already talked about, since we mostly already have opinions about those.
There is one that I feel like I need to watch whether we review it or not, and that is Always Be My Maybe.
That one's cute.
That's I didn't know you hadn't seen it yet.
No, because I'm a bad Asian and I really wait on a lot of these non-superhero Asian-led movies. If it's a superhero movie, yeah, sure. Like I'm there day one, as you can both attest.
Palm Springs is another, and it's very recent, that falls into rom-com.
Palm Springs?
Palm Springs, yeah. I didn't watch it for a long time because, not that I don't like Adam Sandberg, but it's like everyone kept saying how much of this film was like, it was like this genius film. I don't know why. It just did this mix in my head of like, that makes me not want to see it for some reason. And then I finally saw it and I was like, oh, it's really good. It's a much more timey-wimey take on Groundhog Day.
Oh, this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
fun. Also has Superman in it.
Yes, it does.
Superman and Veronica.
Yes. And J. Jonah Jameson.
And Jonah Jameson.
And the mother from How I Met Your Mother.
Yep. I was just noticing that too. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, that's a romantic comedy television show that I will admit to the fact that I enjoy it thoroughly, even though it's very, very problematic.
It's a TV show about all white people. It's
like most TV shows.
But for what it's worth, I also really enjoyed that show.
Yep.
I will always give credit to the showrunner, the creator of that show. How while he actually wanted to end that show, he wrote it. He knew they were never. He didn't even try to pitch it past the audience. He's like, I wrote it because I had to write it, but I knew they were never going to do it. Like when the show was over, the camera was, and the person was going to say, and that's how I met your mother. And then the camera's going to keep panning and panning and panning until you realize that this is a guy trying to keep his family there entertained as the world ends outside.
Yep, I had heard that.
He's like, I was going to pull back and it was going to be an apocalyptic scene.
Mhm.
He's like, boom, that's where we end it.
That was real. That he really wanted to do that.
He really wanted to do
Yes,
that. Yeah,
that was real.
I had heard that, but I thought it was a joke.
No, he was serious. He's like, they're never going to let me do it. He says, but if they would have, I'd have done that.
So yeah, moving on to Avatar.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So I believe this is our third attempt.
Take 3.
Well, no, I think in terms of actually getting to talk about it on air, this is only our second attempt.
Right.
Yeah,
But
See, yeah, I didn't even remember ever trying to do this before.
really?
Yeah.
No, there was one time that we were gonna do it. I know I watched them. I don't remember if anyone else did, but then we never actually got to talk about it, and then we fucked off. And then the second time, Cable, you and I watched it. I think Aaron, maybe you didn't get to it, and then we talked about it, and then we fucked off.
Yep.
Right.
But for reals, this time, our 2022 show is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Insert fanfare here.
I do like. I believe that's Kevin. I still don't know everyone's handle on Twitch. I like his pitch for what's our angle.
That might work. We'll see.
Keep them coming, kids. So
Get bent.
there are a couple things that I want to.
So
I'd like to
dumb.
start off with
But I
now
like
that we're really doing Avatar. Is I still don't know how I feel about this whole concept of like I remember when the live action movie by Shyamalan came out and everyone was upset about talking about whitewash casting and this and that, and it's not right, and that's part of the new casting for the Netflix television series where it's predominantly all Asian casting,
of which the creators are no longer involved in.
True.
Yeah, weird.
Here's the thing. This isn't Earth. So there are no Asians.
Right. I think what people had upset though is that Avatar: The Last Bender. The Last Bender. Now my brain is mixing Avatar and Futurama together. It's really goofy. The world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I also think intentionally doesn't have a lot of European mythical tropes or elements in it.
Nope.
And I think that meant by default to cast people that clearly have European ancestry was kind of a slap in the face. I think that's where it came from, which I get. And like no one in Avatar, at least as drawn and how we look at humans, none of them are presenting as, Western European features. Sure. So I think that's what got people like, really? M. Night, like you did that? So that's kind of where I think it happened. But
I get it. Like it's what do you want? God, cats.
You'll never know.
No, she will talk at me all day long and I will still not know. And this starts to get into things like my feelings on Star Wars and other things where it's like, oh yeah, it's great. They're doing this. Like I love Chirrut and Baze Malbus from what's that one?
Rogue One.
Yeah. And I love what's going on in Book of Boba Fett, and we jokingly call that two old Asians. But the characters themselves, they're not Asian because there is no Asia.
Yeah, there's no Earth. They're ostensibly they're human, but they're not Earth humans from our Earth continents.
Nope. And so that is the stepping stone I always have a hard time with when I'm dealing with fantasy. I have the same problem with board games. Every time you set a board game in Japan and it's made by a white person, that annoys me. But if you take Legends of the Five Rings, who's clearly based off of the samurai period, but it has nothing to do. It's not set in Japan because there is no Japan.
Sure.
It's some mythical country called Rokugan, and it's on a different planet. It's like, well, okay, fine. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, and that's always been one of my hangups with Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's like, I get it. You're doing Planet of the Asians, except they're not Asians. So I don't know quite what this show was trying to do in the first place.
Right.
Okay. That's a good caveat to outline.
I want people to know at least where I'm coming from when we're trying to review this show and why I have never made it past the first 4 episodes every time I've watched it, because I've gone, yeah, this is not for me.
I think the biggest hurdle for me is that it is very much a children's show, and the dynamic of the characters interacting with each other is okay, great. Like, older brother and little sister are always fighting. Like, I don't want that in my real life. That's not that's not entertainment to me. So there's that. It's like knowing that I have to get past that component in order to get to the parts that are supposed to be, like the good storytelling, the meat of this franchise, in essence. That's my big.
I think that's made most evident in the first 3 episodes. It's like, oh yeah, this is a kid show. The first 2 are really hard to get through.
Yeah, and that's why, for me, it doesn't really pick up until episode 4.
I can't believe I didn't get to 4.
When we start to really get into the larger scope of the world and what's happening, and I feel like the mythology building really starts in episode 4. And you also start to sense that, yeah, it's a kid show, but there's going to be cause and effect and repercussions of things that happen in one episode may pay off episodes later. And you definitely get that in episode 4. Especially, I think you get the first kind of character growth in episode 4 also. You kind of have the brother's attitude towards women kind of get thrown on its ass when he runs into the warriors of Kyoshi.
Literally? Literally?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. To the point to where there's this, and whatever, spoilers. There's a part where someone mistakes him for a girl. And normally that would infuriate him because, yeah, girl's weak, men better at everything. And he has this line. He's like, well, I'm not and he actually stops us. You know what? Never mind. It doesn't matter. And then he just gets back to fighting. So that's when you start to realize that the show is going to do more than just be a kind of fantasy martial arts kids show,
Well, and let's talk. So the characters that we're following are Aang, who is the last Airbender, the little bald kid with the arrow on his head, and then Sokka and Katara, who are brother and sister from the South Pole of the planet. that they're on?
I believe so, because and they got to get to the North Pole,
Mm-hmm.
so she
Because
can
that's
start her. Yeah,
yeah.
right,
Sokka has a talent for water bending.
right,
Bending the 4 elements is a thing on this planet.
And most people only have one. They only are only able to manipulate one element.
Right, except for
Yeah.
the Avatar who can manipulate all 4, and the Avatar is a being that reincarnates over and over and over and helps maintain the peace on the planet. And so far, what we've gathered from Aang is a little kid that likes having fun and running away from responsibility, and that's why he went missing and froze himself into an iceberg 100 years before the story started, which then led to a war that has been waged for as long as a lot of people have been alive and wiped out all of the people who were airbenders.
right. Yeah.
So the world that he's reawakened in, and he's reawakened accidentally, is the 10th element.
Oh yeah, we got to go over all of these before we
Oh
wrap
yeah,
tonight.
definitely. Like the world that he's been brought back into is completely out of balance because there are only 3 elements represented, 3 of the 4, and like the village that Katara and Sokka are from are completely devoid of adult men because they went off to war and are all presumably dead.
Yeah.
From the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Fine. Nope, that was it. That was kind of where I was at with Yeah, there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen this, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's coming up on
guys,
being 20 years old. We haven't seen it. I haven't seen it because I'm way out of the demographic for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the same reason why I hadn't watched it either. So, but I will say, like, again, once I got to episode 4, I think this will be easier for me. Because in full disclosure, I do believe this is the 3rd time I've tried to watch this show.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for review purposes, but because people whose opinion I tend to respect in terms of story are like, it's amazing. Aaron, you will love it. And I get around episode 3 and I'm like, I can't do it. It's just not holding me.
In comparison with a more modern show, I had the same issues with Prodigy. Those first 2 episodes, I'm like, I don't know about this. This is like, it's fun, but it's also annoying.
Right.
And if they hadn't packaged those first 2 episodes together so that you get the Starfleet ship and hologram Janeway by the end of that 2nd episode, I may have gone, nope, this is clearly not a Star Trek for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I'm like, Jesus Christ, these kids, these poor kids. What other ringer are you going to run them through?
Right. Yeah.
You guys can say as much as you want about the 4th episode. That's on me, and I'll probably watch it tonight. So.
Oh yeah, well, and you've probably seen it already before. It is the first 2 episodes are parts 1 and 2 of Aang gets out of the iceberg. Katara is the one that actually frees him in a moment where she's angry and her water bending powers cracks open an iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
That should be foreshadowing that should be paid attention to, by the way.
Yes.
It's quite the moment.
Yeah. And by doing so, it alerts this exiled son of the Fire Nation, Zuko, who also has his own story arc. He's one of the characters that people are like, no, you got to watch the show for Zuko. Fuck Aang. I mean, Aang, great, but also Zuko. Zuko's the person to watch for it. And so it sets up in very kid fashion who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, and the chase that's going to go on. And then the 3rd episode is the one where Aang finally gets to go back home and learns that you can't go home again, and that maybe he should shape up and kind of like he's still trying to play kid, and he's not. Like he's a 12-year-old kid physically, but he's now 112 years old.
I mean, not that he remembers that century, so
right.
That 100 years does not count towards his maturity level, but the thing that he has to stop trying to avoid is this responsibility that he had placed on him at a too young age.
Right.
He wasn't even supposed to know that he was the Avatar until he was a good deal older. The difference between a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old is pretty big. It is a big shift in understanding, let alone undertaking responsibility. So yeah.
And then the fourth episode is like Aaron was talking about. It shows how decisions that you make and actions that you make have consequences and reactions, because they go to a fishing village that he mentions early on, because he's like, I want to go ride koi in this place, and he does. Elephant koi should be a real thing. That's amazing. Like whale-sized koi that you could go out and ride. That would
the 10-ton koi. Yeah.
But seeing this other village and seeing how a completely other part of the world has been affected by the war by trying to stay out of it, and then they're brought into it just by him running around going, I want to go here because it's fun. Maybe that's not the best plan.
Yeah, word starts to spread quickly when they realize that who this Aang is. It's even in a place with limited technology, they have ways that the gossip spreads quickly.
Oh yeah,
very quickly.
Nothing spreads like gossip.
Yeah,
but that's also like the episode is also designed to show you, to give young viewers, it's like, okay, so here's a primer on feminism.
Yes. Yeah, episode 4 definitely does that.
And it's like, that's great. That's very straightforward and does all of the things and checks the boxes that it needs to. It's like, good.
There's that Dave Filoni magic.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I didn't realize until watching things through this time and watching the credits. I'm like, I saw several names that I'm like, oh, Dave Filoni was one of them. The next name that I saw that I went, oh, was Andrea Romano.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Andrea Romano is a voice casting director that gave us. She started with, here is Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as your favorite Batman and Joker for the rest of your life.
Yeah, she was basically responsible for how the animated DC world for like 20 years sounded like.
Yep.
Interesting.
And probably had way more influence than just a voice casting director.
Yep. Like there's a lot of talk about the casting director for the Marvel movies and how she's really helped shape what that looks like by casting the right people. Andrea Romano was doing it with voice casting 2 decades before. There's
actually I can't remember it, so maybe I'll put it in the thread when we post the podcast. There's a documentary all about, I forgot her. It might be the woman who actually does casting for Marvel. How they have been trying for years to make a casting director either can become a member of the Directors Guild and can win an Academy Award. And the guild fights it tooth and nail because they're like, and I to a point I get why. I guess the term casting director wasn't really created until like the mid 70s. It was just the casting office. The idea being that, casting directors cannot be auteurs and that whole thing. But it's a neat documentary where you do see both sides of the argument. By the end, I fell down on that should be something you get an award for, because that's an eye for seeing a bigger picture
Mhm.
that no one else really has until the movie starts. So
Agreed.
yeah.
That should be ostensibly right up there with costume and design, which is an awards category.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the one of the other names that I saw in there was I think it was the opening credits or closing credits or both are done by Titmouse.
Oh shit. All right.
Lower Decks.
Thank
It's
you.
the animation
cool.
Yeah,
house for Lower Decks.
they do a ton of stuff.
Yes, they do. But
Um,
like, so knowing that this is that Avatar: The Last Airbender is not just this well-beloved animated series with a huge story arc, it was also a petri dish for a bunch of people to start testing ideas that they then turned into bigger shows.
mhm.
So
Another, like, can't believe I didn't notice that the 4 other times I've tried to watch this show, in regards to casting, Mae Whitman. Her?
I don't know that name. I know that name, but I don't know that name.
She is probably most famously Anne Egg in
Her?
Arrested Development. Her, but she's also in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
She's done a ton of stuff at this point, and she has this very distinctive look, and she's not.
Yeah, she does.
She always gets cast as this like character who is not like conventionally attractive because I guess she just has that look, that she has that vibe. But she's a really like smart and funny actor.
Really quick, that movie that I mentioned is called Casting By, and it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix documentary.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, she is why we have Jack Nicholson in Batman.
Wow.
And she had to convince him to do it. Yeah, no, she's done a lot of stuff. Yeah. I'm looking at just her notable films, and there's 20 of them at least. Slaughterhouse 5, Escape from Alcatraz, Urban Cowboy, The World According to Garp. I think that is where Glenn Close was discovered. She put Bette Midler in Highway, Gorillas in the Mist. Like her filmography is pretty bonkers. And the movie's primarily about her.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
Casting By.
Casting By.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I heard BI, not BY. I'm like, okay.
That's a different movie.
Yeah,
That
it's
is a
BY.
very different movie.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good start for our Avatar stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about the 4th episode. I distinctly remember that other times we only watched 3, so that's where my brain went. But I'll check out that last one. I'll get caught up and just caught up anyway. But then next week we'll have another arc to discuss,
Mhm.
and presumably it'll be a little bit more interesting than this one because I think the general consensus is episodes 1 through 3, baby show for babies.
Episode 4, still a show for the wee ones, but
now we're going places.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, with our last couple minutes, I do want to go through these names that the gang has suggested here, the listeners.
What I was going to say is that in our planning document, I looked at the episodes as they fall and group them in ways so that it like we don't get part 1 of a 2-parter at the end of one block and the part 2 of the episode in the second block. So that's why
you've already bracketed us by the arcs.
Exactly.
Thank you for doing that research.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Wikipedia.
I was just going to watch one too many episodes and be like,
which
okay,
I monthly donate to.
Now.
Yeah.
Whee. Okay, so possible names for this segment moving forward. Bending the City.
Yeah.
Airbending a fresh biscuit.
No.
No.
I don't know what that means, and I don't think I want to.
Farts.
Thanks. God damn it. Our Appa Indians on Avatar. Bending the tea with Bean. But then that gives me all the credit, and that's not fair.
I think the up opinions might. There's something there, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Hang
really
on to
is.
the ones you like, guys. I'm just reading now.
Mm-hmm.
Earth, Wind, and Fire Nation.
That's also good.
That's pretty good. It's good to keep segments just 1 or 2 words.
Mhm,
Kind of thing.
Yeah, we're really stretching out the
Ramentary.
possibilities here.
Mhm.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, bend me your heirs.
No,
Not that.
absolutely not.
No.
Bending the Streams, the Last Airbender saga. I kind of like that one, but still a little long.
Very long.
How's it hanging? Dang, the Last Airbender.
No.
No.
It's a vote for How's It Hanging? The Benth Element, which is too hard to say.
Yes, that's too hard.
Bending with Ballers, the Avatar Affair. Also not that one.
Bend low, that's too long.
No.
Although someone should sing it though.
No.
No.
Come on.
You do it.
No,
Mm-mm.
I can't do the voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a low, manly voice. Zuko's Modern Life.
Okay.
That would have made me smile, but
Sam Worthington's not in this one.
No.
10 Ton Koi is the name of Norm's all banjo heavy metal tribute band.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all right. It tracks.
Although 10 Ton Koi has a nice ring to it.
What's the one? Appa Opinions? What was that one?
Oh God, go back. I gotta go back.
Our up opinions on
Avatar.
on Avatar.
Appa Opinions is kind of, that one sounds pretty good.
I think
Just
up
Up
opinions.
Opinions.
Just up opinions. Yeah, that's the real sweet spot there.
Also, Appa is played by D. Bradley Baker.
Yay! Wow, we've come around full circle many times today.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I will give How's It Hanging notable mention.
Yeah.
I think that would
That's a good one.
be my second choice.
Yeah. I think Appa Opinions kind of squeaks past that one though.
And I just like Zuko's Modern Life. Both of those are from Bex, I believe. Bex is the Deal Warlock, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we don't
And
have to
she's-
decide right now. We can keep the listeners in suspense, I think.
Yeah, that works.
We do that every week.
That's true. Spoilers, guys. We keep ourselves in suspense usually until a couple days before the show.
Not anymore.
That's true. Not anymore. We have spreadsheets and Google Docs and shit.
We do, which we should talk about considering we've got some stuff next week. We got lots of stuff.
Yes.
It's going to be a busy episode.
Yeah. Next week we're gonna
Mhm.
have on just writer and speaker and translator David Bowles to talk about his new horror podcast, The Obsidian Codex.
And
Yeah.
specifically, it's a horror fiction podcast. It's not talking about horror. It is
Yes.
an original work of fiction, which
Which he
when
will
I
be
looked
drawing
that up.
He will be
Sorry.
drawing a lot upon pre-colonial Mexican culture and myths. That's kind of his jam.
I'm excited. I've already subscribed on Stitcher.
Yeah, me too. I met
I have
him
to get
back in
on Stitcher now.
Yeah. I met him back in 2018 at the Mexicanics Initiative. That's how we first met.
Oh, that's right.
Nice.
Yeah, and he has been also helped me out with certain translations on Season of the Bruja that will make far more sense around issue 3. So he's been helping me out with that, and he's just a really nice guy. And when he gets here, we'll talk about some of his other work that he has. He's incredibly prolific. And then we're also going to play the interview.
Yes.
Yes, we have an. Can we say who it's with?
Yes, we can. Let me. Gosh dang it! I had just closed the page for her. So I had a chance to interview, actually, full disclosure, that'll be pre-recorded. But I had a chance to interview writer and director Leanne Kerr. She is the writer and director of the forthcoming horror flick Student Body, which you can pre-order right now. It comes out February 7th.
8th. It comes out on the 8th.
It comes out on the 8th.
It comes out on the same day that we're
That's
airing the interview.
I'm confusing it because any review or interview embargo is lifted on the 7th. That's
correct.
Where my brain went. So yeah, that's kind of like you can look it up. Put in Student Body 2022 film because I do believe there's a horror film from the 80s with the same name. So
I think it's not that one's Student Bodies.
It is correct
in the 80s.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have an interview with her. Also about a 15-minute interview. It was pretty cool chatting her up. So yeah, guests galore next week.
And then we will do episodes, first season episodes 5 through 8 of Avatar. And if there is still time, I think we will get to another commentary.
Right. Yeah. And don't worry, we haven't forgot about like all the Trek and Star Wars out there, but we're playing around in February.
So. We can't keep giving you the same thing all the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
we want to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's the point.
Also, 2 more. Oh no, I guess we're rescinding one for the other. 1 more entry. Always angry.
Yeah.
But I thought that the previous version, getting angry, was just as good.
There was also anger management.
Oh, that was the other one. Thank you. That got lost on my page.
While we're also crowdsourcing names, there is another thing that we wanted to crowdsource. We want to do some commentaries, and we want to crowdsource what movies you want us to do commentaries on.
Yes.
I think we needed. Oh, I have this down. I think we wanted to do at least 1 sci-fi, 1 fantasy, and 1 horror. And I don't remember what the 4th one was.
I think maybe the 4th one might have actually been a rom-com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like we're asking people not to pick like, I mean, submit whatever you want, but I know we're trying to do something like a little different.
Yep.
What are the genres we wanted again?
So we want 1 sci-fi movie, 1 fantasy movie, 1 horror movie, and 1 rom-com that isn't going to be one of the ones that we were already doing.
Right. And yeah, just start sending your suggestions to like wherever. I mean, you can always email gitcradio@gmail.com.
That would be the best place to send it.
Yeah, that way we can keep track of them.
And we can see them. And, yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to go. What? Beans out. Boom.
I guess so. She's like, I fucking had it. It's 8 o'clock. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's cool. Put them in the chat here, but seriously, like, email us. Preferably not something super new. So I would kind of discredit Denis Villeneuve's Dune already. Not because I didn't think it was fantastic. But I think half the fun is when we get like not obscure, but maybe a movie that no one's really thought about in a while. So stuff like that.
Flight of Dragons. What is Flight of Dragons?
I don't know.
I don't either. I'll look that up, Bex. But yeah, the reason we want to do this is so that we can have a month of commentaries as the show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're planning that for later in the year. Just a whole month of commentaries on the show. And yeah, everyone you're putting in the chat, that's great. Email them to us because that chat disappears the moment the show ends. I mean, I guess I can go to the Twitch page and look at it, but emails are cool because that way we all see it and keep track of it.
Engage with us, listeners.
Yeah. Dragon Slayer could be fun.
Oh my God.
That movie's a trip.
This looks awful.
Dragon Slayer?
No. Oh. Flight of Dragons. Although It has James Earl Jones, Harry Morgan, John Ritter, and Larry Storch.
Flight of Dragons, not The Flight.
The Flight of Dragons?
Yeah, The
Is that
Flight of
it?
Dragons. Yeah,
Oh, The
it's an
Flight, okay.
animated movie.
Oh, it's a Rankin Bass.
This is what I'm looking for.
Ooh.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Woo.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it has
It
like
looks
a
like a knockoff Merlin on the cover.
Yep.
Or, what? Is that what it's called?
Knockoff Sword in the Stone?
Sword. Thank you. The Sword
Yeah.
and Stone.
Mm-hmm. Which is Merlin.
Oh my god, those Rankin Bass stuff are just terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's the animation of nightmares.
Okay. So
Yeah,
again,
maybe. Who knows?
listeners
Again.
in the chat, listeners to the podcast, email us.
Yes.
gitcradio@gmail.com.
Mhm.
Yep.
There you go. The GITC stands for Geek in the City.
Yes, it does.
In case anyone wasn't clear on that.
And if you accidentally send it to my personal one, I'll just forward it to gitcradio@gmail.com.
But that's so clunky.
If you send it to mine, that's going to be really weird because I don't think most of you know my email address.
I do, but I'm not telling.
It's not a
Actually,
secret.
Google remembers that I know your email address. I don't know your email address.
Because it's not my name.
Right.
Mine is, but don't email me there. I won't see it for weeks.
Well, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good place. I'm Aaron Duran.
I'm Benrita.
And I'm Cable Hashtani.
And we will talk to everyone next week. Have a week.
Happy Lunar New Year.
Yeah. Happy year. Tiger, right?
You're the tiger.
Water tiger.
Water tiger.
Ha. Bye, everybody.